Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Tillman Scholar, Morsani College of Medicine MD candidate, and U.S. Air Force veteran, Ed Woodward.
Good morning. I'm Captain Ed Chubb Woodward. It was a hot and sticky night, June 3rd, 2000. The last thing I remember is a flash of lights in my rearview mirror. And then I found myself hanging in the straps of my seatbelt in an overturned Ford Bronco. I clicked the seatbelt and I fell in a pool of gasoline, and the stench burned my nostrils in that cold burn when alcohol hits your skin, and I realized that we were in deep trouble. I yelled, "Get out. Everybody get out." I crawled out, and it was construction. I was holding on to the concrete barrier, just trying to gain my bearing. I look around and I realized there was somebody not with us. I turned around and I went back to the Bronco whenever the people are looking elsewhere, and I see his leg, and I think, oh my God, I gotta get him out. I ran over and I grabbed a hold of his leg and I'm trying to pull him out, but I'm trying to hurt him, but I realized the gas is everywhere. The truck is sparking, people are yelling and screaming, and all I want to do is get him out. But he's trapped between the seat and the roof, and the car's crushed. And so I'm pulling him, and I'm like, please, God, let me get him out. And I watch the sparks ignite the gas. And the whoosh and bright flames. And I realize I got no time. And as the flames are rushing at me, and I completely feel lost and helpless, I just kneeled down next to him, because I was just content to stand there and burn with him. As the flames rush and I feel the heat burn my eyebrows and it starts to singe, that place in the back of my mind that's always been his starts to fade, and as it does, it says, "Ed, let me go. Let me go." And so I let go. And as I do, the bystanders pull me over the concrete barrier as the Ford Bronco explodes in my face and burns my eyebrows and my eyelashes off. And that was my identical twin brother's last day on Earth. We had just finished celebrating his first year of med school, and we were hit by a drunk driver going about 120 miles an hour, racing another car down the highway. That day I promised him that I would live for both of us. And so I did. I was commissioned second lieutenant in the Air Force, initially as a flight navigator, but then I earned my spot as one of the top 5% pilot candidates, and went to Euro-NATO joint jet pilot training. Graduated, earned my wings, and then I was selected to fly the F-15C Eagle, which was my dream. And one of the most telling experiences that I've keep to this day is I climbed the ladder as I'm about to solo the Eagle for the first time, and I look over the fuselage and I realize this is a $100 million warplane capable of going 3 times the speed of sound, carrying enough armament to level a city, and it's got one seat. And it's my seat. That was an awesome day. 5 flights from graduation to become an Eagle driver, I develop a blood clot in my brain that causes the capillary beds of my temporal lobe to rupture. And I almost lost my life that day, but what I did lose is I lost my aircraft and I lost my career. I wanted to be an Eagle driver for me and for my brother. After a year of rehabilitation and speech therapy, I was medically retired from the Air Force, and I was hopelessly lost. I had wrapped my identity around being an officer and being a pilot. chance conversation with my grandfather, who was passing away from pancreatic cancer, and it ended up being my last conversation with him. He's consoling me as he's dying of pancreatic cancer, and I'm like, Gramps, I don't know what to do. I don't know what I can do. He looks at me and he said, finish what Gene started. So that day, I made him a promise that I would. I earned my master's degree in medical science, and I was accepted into the Morsani College of Medicine at the University of South Florida, where my brother had finished his first year. I've since finished my second year and studying for Step 1 and entering clinicals. And I want to tell you about a rare gift that some of us never seem to stop long enough to realize. Something that changed my life in the course of my life. Everybody loves an ex-fighter pilot with brain damage who's going to medical school, right? So that opened up some opportunities. And a friend and mentor invited me to watch him do cataract surgery. I'm like, yeah, that's cool. And he's like, I think you'll like it because it's stick and rudder flying the way you move the scope. And while you're doing, because you're doing eye surgery with your hands and you're moving the scope with your feet. He said, I think you'd be good at it. I'm like, awesome. So I went to watch. Our patient that day was Burly Jim, and I call him that. One, HIPAA, we can't give you his real name, but two, he's this hammer-swinging, 90-year-old construction worker that had waited so long his cataracts are milk white. You can't even see the shadows of his fingers right in front of his face. In less than 20 minutes, Dr. Carmack restores his sight to nearly 20/20. And we go see him in the post-op, in the recovery, while he's waiting. And he's sitting there and he's looking at his fingers. And I said, Jim, everything okay? And he goes, Doc, I haven't seen my fingers or hands this clearly in almost a decade. And he goes, look at how wrinkly and old they are. He's looking at him like, oh my gosh. And I'm looking at his face, just having a chuckle with him, And I watch this hard man with this face of worn granite, this weathered granite, change as he smiles, turn to supple leather, and his eyes start to water. And I look over my shoulder to follow his gaze, and the nurse has just walked his wife in. And the anticipation on her face changes when she sees recognition on his face that he can see her. And I realize it's been 10 years since he's seen the face of the one he loves that clearly. And time stops for me, and it's like looking through a wide-angle lens. I watch the events of my past lead me to stand here with them as they embrace and cry together because we just restored his sight. And he can see the love of his life that he hasn't seen that clearly in 10 years. And I watch as my future lays out before me because life just changed for me, because I'm going to choose to do that. Restore sight. Change people's lives. I'm like, Gene, look what we're going to do. This is what we're going to do. I am Ed Woodward, MD candidate, father, husband. Thank you for listening, and I'm a U.S. veteran.